Stefano, buongiorno. How are you? How are you this morning?
I'm
The
good.
sun's shining.
Yeah, nice, lovely weather in London right now. Yeah, it's good. I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
If you take being a Milan fan out the equation, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Just when
Yeah.
we come back into this world, it's like,
Yeah,
here we
mate.
go. Let's talk
Me
about another
too.
negative point. But yeah, how are you? You okay?
Yeah, all good. Got my coffee. It's a Sunday morning, like you said. Everything else in life going all right, and then you sort of focus on Milan, and you think, "Oh my God,"
Oh, just
and
like
that's the life
yeah,
of a Milan fan right now.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for all of you who joined me on the watch along midweek against a couple of days ago now against Bologna, and probably by the time of watching this may only have just caught the game tonight, which will be against Lazio, and hopefully we get 3 points. But yeah, Christ,
Mm.
it's been dire. It's been really dire. I mean, the loss against Torino as well. And then equally, obviously, going out in the Champions League against final there, that draw. It's just, I think we all kind of admit the season's done. I mean, it's even to the point where, like, I know we're still in Coppa Italia, but Inter are picking up on form.
Yeah.
I just don't know how many times we can keep picking ourselves up for that derby fixture, especially when it's 2 legs as well. It's not like a shock on all. Like we can get like
No.
a one-off win and get through. It's going to have to go like home and away. So it's like there's that, and then the top 4 thing is just yeah,
It's
I
very
just
depressing.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. There's the only consistency is that we're so inconsistent, and
Yes.
and it's not even to that point now. We're just not even
That's
no longer consistent. We're just consistently shit because we can't
yeah.
even get a point, let alone 3 points.
We are a paradoxical team. I think that's very well put. Very well
Yeah.
put. So, what we're going to talk about, obviously, there's not much else to talk about in the sense that we know as fans what the real issue is. I think every single fan is pretty much aligned, even if some might put more blame on the players, which to be honest at this point that's quite valid. But every single fan I've now, even though I'm not really on Twitter these days, I know from everyone else and yourself, Steph, that everyone knows it's a management issue. It's so clear now. So what we're going to try and talk about, although we have spoken about this a lot, it is important. We're going to try and look at realistic changes in regards to CEO, sporting director, that the management will try and do to rectify it come the summer. So that's what we're going to discuss really. And Steph, I'll just start really with a few of the rumours. Paratici is kind of the big one. Who would you like to see as that sort of sporting director role, which we haven't got, as Zlatan admitted in his own stupid GQ interview? It doesn't work for Milan. It doesn't work for Milan. So who would you like to see? What would you like to see? Realistic changes.
I'm gonna have to go again for my namesake. I'm gonna go for, is it Giovanni Sartori from who's
Yeah,
currently at Bologna,
it is
who we
Giovanni.
just
Yeah.
who we just faced on Thursday. Um, I think it's interesting because I think with sporting directors, I think the good ones, and this is the thing as well. I think sporting and technical directors, we've seen kind of a bit of a merge of the two over time, or equally maybe split out between them, whether it was Masada and equally right now it's this kind of like question mark on who's doing what. But I think it's, for me, it resembles an alignment of where the project's going, and where we've kind of fallen off the rails a little bit is that we've not had that over the last year and a half basically, and 3 transfer windows since that point too. Actually no, sorry, 4 actually, because there's 2 January and 2 summers. And I think we're really at a point right now. We'll have to humble ourselves. I'm not quite sure what we'll have from a budget perspective this summer, because ultimately, if we're not going to get top 4 Champions League football, and then we haven't also made a lot of money this season, and we spent a lot of money in January, without kind of looking too much internally on the players that we might sell. My question is, how do we sort of hit the market with an aligned strategy, scouting the right players, and also identifying the way to sell the players at the right time as well? And I look at clubs like Bologna and Atalanta the last couple of seasons, if not more, near enough the best part of nearly a decade now. And I look at Sartori as someone who's delivered on that objective. Is this a consistent element of finding players with the right caliber to play for a club that's growing, who are hardworking players, understand the objective when they come in, and equally sell at the right time as well. But they always seem to get that right, and the consistency of that, I believe, is something that you can't help but understand he's doing the right thing there. Also, I think there's an element of understanding the league as well. And if you have someone who's been not just also at those two clubs, also Kiev or Verona as well, there's longevity in understanding the league and understanding probably the politics between the league as well. And I think Sartori is someone that would be brilliant for our club. The question mark is that the difference is between, I guess, Bologna and Atalanta as a club perspective compared to Milan. We are a step up in that caliber. However, right now, obviously on the pitch, we're not a step up. We're probably, if anything, a step down. But I think there that the question mark will be sort of, is it even big fish in a small pond? Whereas with us, it's more pressure to get every signing right. So yeah, I think he's the first name I would probably look to internally within Italian football, and someone that is probably at the top with just consistency in it, and if not, probably getting better and better the more the years go by.
Yeah, I really like that suggestion. I think Sartori has done it's a fantastic job. It's obviously very difficult because you don't hear about sporting directors in the same way you hear about managers or players. It's hard to assess. I think more and more because of the corporate side of or the executive side of football is becoming more and more important, and there's a lens on it. So I think more than maybe 20 years ago, people understand these things. But even us, we only know a little bit because they're the people that are behind closed doors that are doing all the business. But yeah, like you said, the Chievo and Bologna sort of case studies that he's worked on has been brilliant. So I'd be happy with that. I think the important point that you mentioned as well, which is really, really key, is the nationality. I'm not trying to be nationalistic here, but Milan has a real problem with protecting its interests. And I think a lot of that is navigating the politicization of Italy and having someone who's Italian, who understands the mechanics of how it operates day to day, the media, all this sort of stuff, I think would be really, really important. So I would definitely like to have an Italian. Obviously, the next biggest name that we've been linked with is Paratici, Fabio Paratici, obviously the old Juve. Now, I think he was quite a good sporting director, but he had that controversy with cooking the books, didn't he? So
yeah.
Do we want someone like that? I don't know. But he was quite good at selling crappy players for high fees. But do we think that was part of his cooking the book strategy? I don't know. But the reports have come in today that he, along with Iglitare of the old Lazio, I think, of old Lazio fame, who's just left, they're the two front runners. But I did just want to mention before I hand it back to you on kind of Paratici as I think the clear favourite at this point. I was quite happy with. I know he's not Italian, Andrea Beretta of Atletico Madrid, but like Sartori, he was a director who's had long-term success in one club or a couple of clubs for a long period of time, and I think that stability is what we need. Paratici is going to come in for 2 years, blow everything up, and hopefully that will work. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's the thing as well. Like I'm at the point right now. I think all of us want extreme change, but we're at a point right now that a lot of clubs around us in the league have had an element of consistency, and that's why their project is so successful. And you also look at any other league. I always say this: you have to sort of buy in to a project in a bit of a longer term to understand that if it's going to be sustainable consistently. That's why, like, when you look at kind of what clubs like Manchester United do, it's just unsuccessful. It's always going to blow up within the season because there's the impatience to think it's going to be done quickly. However, you don't have the patience to see it through longer term. So I am worried about us completely hitting the reset button unless we fully commit to it, and we have to double down on it. You have to go, if we're going to do this, we have to stick with it. And it might be a rough couple of seasons, but fair enough. The same way we did it with Pioli and that sort of that era. We understood that we've had to humble ourselves and understand there's going to be growth, because it's going to be a humbling season the way it's going. We're looking like we're going to finish between 8th and 10th place, which is embarrassing.
That's Banter era placing. Let's be frank.
It's if not worse. After this live game, we were finishing 6th, 7th, and 8th in the Banter era at time, and this is with much more better players. So it's largely concerning. I also think, whilst we're talking about sporting director and we're talking about Italians, and you could laugh when I say this because it's a name that we are all very familiar with. I think Forlani has to go as CEO, 1,000%.
Yes.
And I think personally, who needs to replace him is Adriano Galliani. And you might laugh when
Yeah.
I say this,
No, I think
but
that'd be great, but go on.
like think of it, yeah. So Monza are probably going to get relegated, yeah.
Probably, yeah.
So it's kind of like, let's give him one last hurrah. I want someone to come in and, to our point with the sporting director, knows the league, has all these fantastic contacts as well within world football.
He's respected. He's well respected.
Yeah. And I think if you look at, we sit here and we joke about Inter Milan and we talk about, is it Marotta League and
Two-Eyed Joe, what the hell?
Look at them the thing is, these are in my opinion, and I think this is so sad to talk about this way, but I think Serie A is so political.
It is.
And it comes from hierarchy down to players. And we have hit a massive roster of foreign players. We have a management with technically foreigners, because it doesn't matter if they're Italian American or not, they're still American to the Italian eye. So they are not going to get those little favors you see on the pitch. And whether you like it or not, the reality is there. So it comes from Marotta down to Inzaghi on the touchline, who you see him is near enough in the on the corner flag at set pieces. Like, how is he not getting booked for these sort of things and being called up for those sort of things? It's because they're savvy enough to know how referees and the league is, and to probably get away with those elements. And I think there's a little bit of a 5% extra you get by getting an Italian in, especially someone as what you said, respected and knowledgeable and wise as Galliani, to kind of work around those little kind of cracks around it, like sort of things that they can do and can't do. And it's sad it has to be that way, but the reality is, I think right now I would love us to have a little tap into a little bit of that, rather than just go, how come they keep getting away with it? How come they keep getting away with it? We could be kind of eating out of that pie a little bit there. And to be honest, the last bit where I'd really like Galliani to come in as well, because it was very similar to Maldini as well. And it's not just because of a swan song element to it, but I think there's a bit that will roll down hopefully onto the players as well. This sort of piece of the past and in that sort of romantic, he was there through like, the most successful time probably of our career history. Players then buying into that as well, and it gives them that extra 5 to 10% to potentially give onto the pitch too, rather than just some, a name that's been relevant for the last 5 to 10 years, if not less than that, and going, why should I really believe in this project? And I think Galliani is probably the best thing that we could probably do right now, that the equivalent to making up for the dismissal of Maldini. But that's my suggestion.
I would love that. I absolutely love that, but I don't see a world in which that happens, and the reason why is because this management have done absolutely everything to erase what Milan was in the past and put their own stamp on it. Now we're at a point where they've got two paths, like you said earlier. They either double down on their approach of creating this new Milan, which is worse in every single way, of uprooting what you actually said earlier about all these clubs. I actually want to make this point. I want to go on a quick tangent. You made a point, really pertinent point, about how all the other clubs have had a couple to at least 2 years, but some of them 3 or 4 years of stability and consistency. We were that club 2 years ago. Yeah, we were that club. We were the club where we were saying, "Oh no, I think we'll get top 4, or we'll get challenge for the title." Because
it was banked at the top 4. That's
we had Pioli, we had Maldini, we had Massara. We did not have the better squad. We have a better squad in terms of talent right now. That is undeniable. But we had the consistency and the continuity, which doesn't exist anymore. So there's 2 paths. Going back to the point, there's 2 paths. Do they double down and blow everything up and go, right, okay, we're going to forget all this. This is the new era. We're going to spend loads of money or whatever it is and carry on down the path, which is not doing very well, but fine. Like you said, we maybe sacrifice 2 seasons for them to actually right their wrongs. Fair enough. All right. Or do they completely go back on everything that they've tried to achieve, appoint someone like Galliani, appoint a manager, maybe we're going to speak on another pub chat, that goes against what they've been trying to do for the last 2 years? That's where I'm seeing, like, I don't know, but I can see it. For the first time ever, because they're so desperate, because they've got no other choice, they could do that, but they only do that if they go against everything that they've done for the last 2 or 3 years. I don't see them appointing Galliani, because Galliani represents everything that they wanted to change. He is the old Milan, everything. But I'd love it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, the reality is, and you're completely right, it's like, if they're not stubborn enough to understand what they've done is wrong so far, then they might be open to changes like that. And there might be other better names, to be honest, than what I've suggested just there. But I think the point being is that what they've done so far to this date, and what they think is their initiative driving them in decision making, is wrong. And I look at, and I'm not saying also at the same time that like sticking to what we currently have and establishing some sort of consistency is the right answer, because to me it's so outlandishly clear that this management and the direction of it, the squad building, the coach selection to then also resemble that squad, the type of football they want to play, it's shifting within the season, that I can't even believe that what they're trying to achieve with this current setup is going to essentially have an element of consistency. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's so erratic. It reminds me of, in a way, when at the start of the Banter era, I know Galliani was there for that, but ultimately the club financially wasn't as stable as it is right now. And we didn't have the budget we've had as we do right now. But I remember when it was like, okay, El Shaarawy had a good season, and a season and a half, was then sold, and it was like flipping around players X, Y, Z. And I think that's also the thing that worries me. We're talking about essentially selling Rafael Leao, which has pros and cons for that argument. But then it's because potentially to get maybe more of a hard-working left winger in, which might fit the identity of Conceição. But then Conceição could be gone in 6 or 7 months' time. So then that project then has to then reset, and then that new coach goes, "These aren't my players," and it's literally what clubs like Man United are going through right now. And it's the same thing. Like, we have to establish an accurate project, and we still have talent here. We're in the depths a little bit, but we're not completely in that kind of. We still have a great caliber of talent. We're not completely like broke, like as clubs like Man United are, and can't spend any money. We could easily get to that point if we keep like chipping away at the foundations of
I agree.
the club. But we have to quickly establish what this project looks like, and that comes with the sporting director, the CEO, whoever comes in to replace that. Because right now, whoever's there is just not suitable for the job.
We're in such a really pivotal moment, because I agree, we're like in a spiral where we can spiral up just as quickly as we could spiral down, and that's the thing that I'm really scared about, because we could, if they make the right decisions. I think you're quite right. We've got the foundation. We've got enough talent. Financially, we're not in a situation like Man United. However, if they carry on down this destructive path, very quickly we could be in that situation. And you see a club like Man U, who have revenues that only Real Madrid can compare to, how they can't just turn it around. It takes so long. It takes years and years and years. So, yeah, I mean, moving on from obviously the CEO and things like that, or rather the sporting director, let's talk about the current management and what do you think the shape up? Because for me, I think it's quite evident that there's going to be a change in the positions or job titles of the people that are going to be staying, i.e. Moncada, who I don't think should be staying, but I think he'll stick around. It's clear that he's being demoted or shifted. What's your opinion on that? What do you think is kind of like the current shape? We mentioned Ferlani. What do you think, regardless of someone else coming in, where do you see this sort of hierarchy, the structure being next season?
I mean, that's a good question. I probably can't even answer that with any clarity, because it's just like you pull an
It's
answer out.
interesting to think about, though.
But no, it's interesting to think about. I think that I'll start off with Moncada. I think he definitely needs to be relegated in his role. I think he was best for us when he was technically like a scout.
Just a scout, yeah.
And I think he would be great to kind of put him back into a position like that, to partner with a very solid sporting director, like potentially like Sartori, to utilize his scouting from foreign leagues, where Sartori can obviously link in that as well. I think other roles, as mentioned, Ferlani has to go, in my opinion. It's just like, I think he's probably, to be honest, the first name off on the chopping board. Personally, I've not seen what he's actually been able to add to this club as a CEO, which is a vital position. It's probably the biggest position in the company, as much as it is the owner. But the owner's not going to be here day to day. But what does he bring in day to day? I'm not quite sure what Ferlani brings. Scaroni is another one as well. I'm not too sure what his role is. I think there needs to be a sort of well, it needs to be. We need to cut down all these higher up roles and ultimately kind of have one version of the truth, one version of sort of unity within these higher positions. Otherwise, it's where does the accountability come in? And it's like sort of too many chefs, but there's none of these fucking arseholes are chefs. They're all bloody. They're all pot
washers. They're pot wash.
Yeah, they're pot washers. They're fucking cleaners. And I think the last one for me, like, and he's an easy target, don't get me wrong, but Ibra in any shape or form, and I think this comes with the only way it's a weird one. It's like, I think Ibra staying can only exist if those people that I've mentioned come in, and he is kind of like a bit of a cheerleader, but like, and I think there's something like romantic coming in and combining with like a Galliani to help direct the players. But like whatever he's doing right now, and I just can't buy into that he believes in like Fulani, Moncada, Scaroni, and
Yeah.
Cardinale. I just can't buy into it, other the fact that he's getting paid for it. Like, but I could buy into it if Galliani was back, and it just there's something romantic about that, because obviously Galliani bringing him in the first time, that that was all his kind of Flight of the Condor, this sort of deal stuff. But yeah, I look, the reality is I think two of those four have to go. One's probably getting demoted. I think at best one of them stays. Maybe two stay in a sense at the club, but yeah, I think that's what needs to happen. But there needs to be sort of a reduction of management roles, and then ultimately sort of allowing, the management I remember of my past childhood of Milan was, I only ever kind of knew of two key people other than Berlusconi. It was Braida and Galliani, and that was great, because I think like there's something about that allows you to understand, have clarity on who's running the show here. Whereas right now there's just too many chefs. There's like fucking five of them rock up for photos, everything. It's just like,
it's nuts.
It's nuts. But what do you think? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's overcomplicated. Like you said, like we should be able to know. Okay, we're not going to know. We're not, like you said, a company, right? It's a company let's all be clear. That's how Milan's run, and most football clubs, but especially this American ownership of how Milan's run. We're not going to know the inner mechanisms of day to day, the BAU stuff, right? But we should be able to know, like you said, that Galliani does X and someone else does Y, and that's it. That's all we need to know. And they keep, like Marotta with Inter. We know he keeps all of the stuff ticking. I don't need to know the ins and outs. I don't need to know the details. That's not, as a fan, that's not what that's not interesting to us or whatever. We just know that Marotta does his thing and keeps everyone together. We don't have that, like you said. We don't know. Like Zlatan, for me, that interview with GQ, that was really, really insightful, because it showed to me that he clearly, I agree, don't think he buys into the current management or the current vision, but he was scouted by Cardinale to work for Redbird. He wants to be in this corporate investment banking, private equity world. He's not necessarily interested in the club or putting the club's vision forward. I think he wants to become, he's all about ego and power. I think he wants to be that, the puppeteers of the corporate world that control things. That's probably what he would like to do in the future. I can see that like 100%. So Zlatan, massive question mark. But I do think he does have he's a guarantor to a degree, like we had with Maldini. But Maldini actually cared, and I'm not going to go into that. But
yeah.
So Zlatan one's a massive question mark for me. I agree. I don't mind him being part of the club in some capacity, but in his current form, it's not working. It's seriously not working.
It kind of at the moment, and I think it is. I mean, we've seen like these advertising things around London. I've seen on the train. What is it? Some sort of banking thing?
Yeah, I saw you saw it on the chat. I didn't.
Yeah,
I've not been in work for a week.
Fair enough. Yeah, they're all over the tube and stuff. It's like some sort of like, I don't know, like a banking app or something like that. I'm not too sure, but like, is he just using it as a segue to get in?
Yes,
to increase his like profit stream and stuff like that, which is fair play, man. You get paid. You want to get paid outside of retirement, you do you. But like, I can only compare what he's doing right now in a similar vein to kind of what Milan. We've always had a thing with like Milan legends and being kind of around the club, and we've done a lot of work of bringing. I mean, I don't know how many fucking ex-players have come back to our training ground to see the players this season. We've had like, did we have like Rijkaard and all that, like Shevchenko?
Rijkaard, Sheva. I've had a few more actually. I can't even think. But yeah, we've had at least 4 or 5 this season.
And if he's helping support that, then great. There's something good about that when it works. But if he's anything, if you expect him to be anything more than that, to be on a similar caliber to Maldini, I think we need to quickly change our expectations. But but also whether that's good enough for him to be existing at the club is up to your opinion or not. I do find his ego right now quite infuriating, specifically because we're doing shit. I just think there's a level to it. I think when he goes there and he celebrates us winning the Super Cup, and then where is he when all these losses are happening? I just
that interview with GQ was really, really sad to hear, because it just revealed what I think his intentions are with this project.
Yeah.
So Zlatan, I don't mind being around the club, because who he is, but not in this capacity. I think it cannot continue. I think it's quite laughable. And then obviously I completely agree with you in regards to Fellaini, but I don't think Fellaini is going to go because Fellaini is Jerry's man. He's the
Yeah,
financial guy. He's the
exactly.
one. The only thing that he's brought is the financial stability. Whether we agree with it or not, he has been able to make sure that we don't lose money. We buy players. He's able to do things in a legitimate way to make sure we don't lose money, like CDK, Ballo-Touré, or whatever it might be.
Yeah,
These £5 million here or there, or Daniel Maldini to cover the Ballo-Touré, whatever it might be. He's able to do that.
yeah,
Although I think that's nonsensical. And the Moncada, I think Moncada's scouting's been poor for a long time. I don't know what he's bringing that is unique, to be
yeah.
perfectly honest. But he was good as that pure scout because there were
Mm,
players that he brought that we didn't buy. Enzo Fernandez, for example, things like
mm,
that were really cheap. Even Darwin Nunez and things like that. So I
mm,
think he's fine as a scout. But yeah, ultimately for me, I agree. 50% of management need to go.
mm.
Um, and how that's going to operate, I don't know. But for me, this can all be summarized in one way, and we've spoken about this at length. I think we spoke about it about September, October time. Pure and utter arrogance. It's
Mm.
just, it stinks. It stinks of arrogance. Like you
Yeah,
look at them and they just think they're thinking long term. They think, okay, yeah, the fans, we don't care about them because in 5 years we're going to be here. No, you're
yeah,
not. No, you're not.
yeah,
Like it's not gonna. That's what I genuinely think they think. They think the fans just need to deal with a couple of years of us being shit. We know what we're doing. We're better than them.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
impression I get,
Mm,
and
mm.
it's disgusting. So
It's,
yeah, I mean, it's a tough subject this because, like you said, we're pulling answers out of our arse. We don't know, but it's
yeah, yeah,
interesting.
yeah. I think
Uh,
the reality is we're probably 99% likely to change the sporting director role.
mm,
I think that's a guarantee. There's this, there's no smoke without fire. They always say in it, and there's a lot of talk about that right now,
mhm,
and why that's so heavily linked to that position, so heavily linked to the first team coach's role, and also probably Conceicão's lack of a future here at the club, and maybe that's the key thing for Cardinal and for Lani, to your point, to probably stay on is to get that right, is to get that position right, to also get
mm,
right with the coach that's going to be signed too, because I mean, our next video that we're gonna do next week is going to be talking about like who do we think the next coach is going to be. But ultimately, if they have got a brain between the two of them, the idea would be that you would sign a coach that meets the idea of the project, which meets the idea of the sporting director too. So I do think we're looking at sporting director definitely being changed. And then the question mark, I think, out of the other two are going to be, which I'm more 50-50 on, is Scaroni and Ibra's future.
yeah.
And then my blue sky scenario would be obviously changing CEO and getting Fellaini out. But the reality, you made the key point here is that if he's Cardinale's boy, then that's easier said than done. Unless it, yeah, I mean, I say unless we have another shit season, but the arrogance of some of these people is beyond me, that they can't see what's right in front of them. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a sad situation. Obviously, always follow the club in the terms of the history and the shirt. That's what we need to focus on. And we'd like to know what you guys think because I'm sure there are points that Steph and I have missed, and there'll be
Mm.
opinions that you guys have that get in the comments, get involved in the Discord, Substack, try week for free, where you can chat to us and also get your ideas across as well. But when this goes on YouTube or whatever, get in the comments because I genuinely am curious because there'll be things that me and you have missed. And there'll be people that might even have experience of corporate environments at this level that they can kind of tell us the inner mechanisms. Who knows? You don't know who's listening, but
Yeah, no,
yeah,
there's been a lot of on the stream I did on Thursday. There
mm,
was a lot of people talking about these positions.
yeah,
So it's definitely is a hot topic.
100%.
And I think, yeah, just peel who you think your names are, because this is one bit I think when it comes to this sport, I have historically cared the least of, because we've always just been so kind of like, with, like I said, with Galliani and Braida, it was always something that you just knew what you had. So it was
Mm.
like I never cared too much to look into it or who was good. Now it's like a point where we have to pay attention to it because it's kind of
Mhm.
like just as important
It's
as
the
the
most
players.
important. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's probably more
So
important, really.
yeah,
Yeah, and yeah, thanks for joining. We're doing the watch along for the Lazio game. So I don't know when this will go out. I think it will go out before that. So
should before, yeah.
join me there. I think Steph, you might be coming, but if not, we'll be doing it. We'll be doing it tonight. Don't know what to expect. It's been 2 weeks of utter dross. But yeah,
Mm.
obviously Forza Milan sempre. Any last thoughts, Steph, before we sign off this week?
Nah, no last thoughts. Just
End the season. End the season.
end the season, end the stream, end
Yeah.
everything. But yeah, nah, all good, man, all good. But yeah, cheers to everyone who's listening today. Hope you have a great Sunday, and hopefully the club doesn't ruin the your day later on. And yeah, man, join in next time.
Yeah. Cheers, guys. Ciao, ciao.